My name is Brent Weitzberg, and I have the distinct honor of serving as the Deputy Chief of Staff to Queensborough President Donovan Richards. This is the first in a series of town halls that we're going to be hosting across Queens, and we want community input and to be present here. With that being said, it's my honor to introduce the CEO of the Variety Boys and Girls Club, Costa Constantinidis. So with that,
good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the Boys and Girls Club of Queens. So before I introduce my brother, the amazing Borough President, Donovan Richards, I first want to give you a little history about the Variety Boys and Girls Club. We were founded in 1955. We've been here 66 years. Our team every year serves about 4,000 young people here in the Western Queens community. And we couldn't do that without the amazing staff that makes this place run every single day. So I want to recognize a member of our board of directors, Kathleen Prager, who's here tonight. I want to recognize our executive director, Andy Rodriguez, our developmental director and do everything, Elsbeth Grant. Where is she? There's Elsbeth there. Wave your hand. We have our Director of Strategic Planning, Alexia Metrikanakis. And we have our Board President, who just walked in because timing in life is everything, Walter Sanchez. And with the vision that I know our Borough President shares, when we renovate this new building, when we build the first planetarium in Queens, when we build a 1,000-seat arena for next time the Borough President have his town halls there, we build our Olympic-sized swimming pool, we'll go to serving 16,000 young people a year. That will be transformative for Western Queens, and we're going to call our Borough President our fairy godfather here, because he was able to put $5 million in the budget in this past year. So I want to perfectly take this opportunity for thanking our Borough President for all that he's done for this organization and for our shared vision. And Donovan, I'm sorry there's no dunk tank here today. But on Saturday, I was in a dunk tank, and on the third try, he nailed the target, and down I went right in the pool. But this time around, you can cheer for that, Marie. That's all right. I see the love. But I really want to introduce our Borough President, Donovan Richards, who's been a friend of mine for almost 2 decades now, 15-something years. He has been a true champion in the New York City Council. He and I were staffers together. He's someone who understands government inside and out. Everything from making sure that we're safe, to making sure that our streets are safe, to making sure that our garbage is getting picked up, to making sure passing major legislation to change our city. Our Borough President, Donovan Richards, has done all of that, bringing millions upon millions of dollars here into the Borough of Queens. Just hearing the stuff that I'm going to let him talk about it, but I was at a press conference with him earlier and talking about millions of dollars here for this project and millions of dollars here for that project. He's getting us the funding that we need in this borough to continue to be the shining light of the 5 boroughs. So thank you, Borough President Richards, for all that you do. Thank you for coming to our house here, Variety Boys and Girls Club. This is your house. This is the people's house. This is the community's house. So thank you for bringing this here today to answer the questions from the community. And thank you for your continued partnership and being the amazing person. And I will say father to D3. Father to D3 as well. Thank you for being the amazing person, father, and friend that you are. Thank you, brother.
Well, good afternoon. Well, good evening. Sorry. It's been such a long day. I don't even know what time it is anymore. But it is great to be here. I'm your Queensborough President, Donovan Richards. And how fitting it is for my first town hall as Borough President to be at the Variety Boys and Girls Club with my brother, Costa. I want to thank you for what you have done for this community and what you're going to continue to do for this community. And I'll say that in my first, I don't even know if it was 2 weeks as Borough President, Costa came and said, I have this great idea to build out a community center, some affordable housing, an Olympic-sized pool. And I said, well, how much do you want? he's like 5 million at least. And of course we did the 5 million because we know that his commitment runs deep to the community. It's beyond politics, it's beyond elected office. He's a true public servant. So I want to thank you for what you've continued to do for this community. And to all the agencies, thank you for being here. To our community members who are here, thank you. Our community boards, I'll acknowledge in a second. Thank you for being here. And I really wanted to get these regional town halls started because we want to ensure that government is being responsive to each and every one of you. And we want to ensure that every corner of this borough knows that my office, the Queensborough President's office, your office is here to be responsive to the community and your needs. And it doesn't mean we're going to get it right every single time, but working collectively together, we can improve the conditions in our community. And I think it's very important coming out of this pandemic, where Queens was the epicenter of the epicenter, that we not forget those we've lost because of the inequities that have historically been in many communities, but also the need to make sure that our government is more responsive in meeting the needs of our people in every corner. And I see people in this room who I've traveled along northwestern Queens and saw out in the streets giving food out to people during their time of need. We fought very hard to ensure that there was more testing for our community, vaccine access. So as we come out of this pandemic, and even though we're still technically in it, I want to thank all of you because everybody in here is vaccinated. We need to continue to preach the word that we need every Queens resident vaccinated. But I do have some good news on that front. And we announced that just this past Monday with the mayor that Queens leads the city in vaccinations. Over 1.5 million Queens residents vaccinated. And this could not have been done without partnership with people like Costa. I know Jimmy will be here, Brian Barnwell, and many of the other elected officials who fought hard to make sure that government was responsive here as well. So tonight we have several agencies here. We have Fema. Of course, we just came out of Hurricane Ida. Tropical Storm Ida hit our communities hard. There were certain portions of Astoria, Forest Hills, northwestern Queens that were hit. And we want to make sure that they're responsive. And I know that one of the things that differentiates what happened during Ida opposed to Hurricane Sandy, and I represented the Rockaways, is that government really was on the ground much sooner than what we saw during Sandy. During Sandy, it took a month before we saw FEMA or the Red Cross. And what I will say that's different here is that you have every agency on the ground, and that's to the credit of your elected officials. I, of course, want to recognize the NYPD, who is here tonight, and I know that there's been a lot of concerns around safety and quality of life issues, and these are things I hear as we get around the borough, but I want to thank them for their service because I know it was a trying time for them even during COVID-19, putting their own health at risk to make sure that they can keep us as safe as possible, so thank you. We have the DSNY, we have NYCHA, Parks Department, and DOT. And I, of course, want to thank my colleagues who co-sponsored tonight, Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney, who's probably in Washington, and we need to bring home an infrastructure package to Queens so we can spend it all on infrastructure and hospitals and schools. So I'm thankful to her, State Senator Tony Ann Stavisky, Assemblymember Jeffrey on Aubrey, Assemblymember Brian Barnwell, Catalina Cruz, Jessica Gonzalez Rojas, Catherine Nolan, and of course Danny Drum and Jimmy Van Bremen, as well as our community boards 1, 2, 3, and 4. And of course, I know that there may be some concerns you have in the agencies that I presented tonight may not, you may have some concerns with other agencies that may not be here tonight, but my staff is here. Everybody got the QR code thingy. This is what they put in my notes. So we have like a QR code. We like moving into the future. So if you have a cell phone, you can go up to that desk there. Brittany, raise your hand. Brittany is the director of my constituent services unit, and you will scan that and put your complaint in. So we're moving into the 21st century at Borough Hall. And I would like to also, before I begin, give an opportunity to hear from our community boards, which I'll do in a second. But let me just give you some other brief updates of what we've done, and some of this is borough-wide, but obviously we want to make sure that many of our budget priorities were connected to Northwestern Queens as well. So in terms of healthcare this year, and I talked about the pandemic and ensuring that we not only build back, but build back better for the term, right? We can't go back to normal. People are saying, well, we need to get back to normal. No, normal was not good enough for Queens County, and that's why we're going to ensure that the investments that were sorely needed are reaching the corners of our community. So this year we, and I'm proud to say, and I got bragging rights this year, that Queensborough Hall came in #1 amongst the borough presidents when it comes to capital funding. So we were able to bring home about $70 million in my first 8 months. And about $12 billion of those dollars are going to hospitals across Queens. So Elmhurst Hospital, the floating hospital right here in Long Island City, and the Community Healthcare Network all shared in that pot. We also brought home about $4.5 million for our CUNY institutions. So LaGuardia Community College for occupational and physical therapy labs was funded. We also had some great projects with the Department of Transportation. And we secured about $4.8 million for different projects. So the Queensboro Bridge is one of those. We had Vision Zero Great Streets on Northern Boulevard, which was also funded between Broadway and 114th Street. And we're also finishing up some other DOT medians, I believe in the Elmhurst area, which we're excited about. And then for parks, you know, we work with Costa. We brought home about $7.35 million. And with Costa, we're going to do basketball courts to address drainage issues at Wood Tree Playground. And with Councilmember Drum, we are renovating the multi-purpose play area at Hoffman Playground. And then for cultural institutions, and today was really a great day for Queens County. The mayor and I announced about $26 million going towards the Queens Museum. We're going to build out the first children's museum in Queens County. $5 million of those dollars coming out of my budget directly for our schools, and I'm not going to go through all the specifics, but Amanda, my budget director, is here. We secured about $12 million for local schools across Queens. Our libraries received about $9.26 million, and NYCHA received close to about $2 million this year out of our budget. And then in terms of affordable housing, and I want to give major credit to Costa on the project we're going to do collectively with Hannock. We put a close to about $2 million in the budget there. And then for our senior centers, about $100,000. So those just a brief synopsis. And we know that we have just got here. There's a lot more work that has to be done to make sure that investments in our institutions are growing. So I want to thank you all for that. Thank you for your taxpayer dollars, because I get to spend them. So with that being said, I also want to thank our partners today, and I want to recognize Community Board 1 Chair, Marie Torniali. Are you here? Stand up. If you don't know your community board, they're your front line of defense. So make sure you get to know them. CB2 Chair, Lisa Deller. Is Lisa here? All right, not here yet. CB3 Chair, Renetta English. I'm sure she's here. And then CB4 Chair, Maria Lena Giampino. I said it right, right? So I want to thank you for being here. Now I'm going to stop talking and we're going to hear from our agencies, but a reminder to everyone here, you should have received index cards to write out your questions. If not, signal my staff and we will get you one. We'll start by going down the line, so please introduce yourself, your agency, and share your updates for these communities represented here. And let me say, after the agencies are done, just so we know how this is going to go, I'm going to call on Brittany Scott, my Director of Constituent Services, and Brent Weisberg, my Deputy Chief of Staff, who will facilitate the Q&A portion. And let me remind you, if we cannot answer your question tonight, we will get back to you. And I'm a stickler for ensuring that we get back to people. We will do that. And then, all right, so that's it. So we're going to kick this off, and I guess we'll go down the line with any updates, and then we'll get to Q&A. So thank you all for being here, and thank you. This will be a memorable night. I see Bishop Taylor's in the house. Thank you for what you do for public housing, and I saw President Koga in the house. How you doing? From Astoria houses. So thank you all for being here tonight. Let's get this show on the road.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Nicole Garcia, and I'm the Queensborough Commissioner for New York City DOT. Thank you to the Borough President and also to Costa. It's great working with you after the council, and I'm just really happy that we have an incredible advocate in Astoria. I look forward to working with you. So obviously 2020 and 2021 have been really rough on all of us. And it affected a lot of the work that DOT did beginning in March 2020, which really kicks off our construction season. So after the governor lifted the pause order, we were out there in force, catching up on a lot of things. We had always been in the field, observing stop signs, fixing traffic signals, sending small crews out, but that really did affect our operations throughout the pandemic. So when the governor lifted the pause order, we were out in full force, resurfacing streets, doing our traffic signal and stop sign studies, installing speed bumps. But there's a lot of catch-up work to do. So I just want to say from the start that if there's a pending speed bump or a traffic signal study, we are out there. We are very, very serious about getting back to you. Now with school in session, we have the children and the caregivers and the teachers adding to those pedestrian counts. So traffic and pedestrian counts are normalized. So I think a lot of the questions that we are going to be hearing, and the borough president knows this chapter and verse, where's my stop sign, where's my speed bump? We're getting to it. But there was a significant delay in 2020. That's not to say that during the pandemic, we weren't working remotely and doing some very, very significant engineering and planning studies. We were able to do, in this neighborhood, protected bike path and temporary materials on Crescent Street. It's now something of a bike superhighway, and it's a big change for the community. What we saw was that during the pandemic, as the MTA was limiting overnight service on subways, a lot of the folks that were stocking our grocery shelves and showing up, at all hours at hospitals, and our emergency responders, quite frankly, some of them had to, take to two wheels, and they were biking, and we saw bike numbers explode. And we were able to implement the Crescent Street protected bike path fairly quickly in temporary materials, and we're very grateful to Community Board 1. We're still working on some, problematic spots and bringing adjustments where needed. But, as a borough president said, we're here to listen. We might not get it 100% right, but talk to us and we'll figure it out together. Also, we had a really good morning this morning. I joined the borough president and the mayor to announce the completion of the fourth and final phase of the Queens Boulevard Bike and Pedestrian project, which takes it, all the way from Community Board 2 all the way to the doorstep of Borough Hall. So we're really excited about that project, and we were able to do a lot of traffic analysis and, legwork throughout the pandemic. The crews are on the ground now installing those safety treatments, and we're just very, very grateful to Community Board 2. They actually showed leadership when we first brought the idea of transforming Queens Boulevard into the Boulevard of Life. And that touches down on Community Board 4, and we're very grateful to all of the feedback that they provided, and also to Community Board 6, which we'll eventually have that town hall later on. I also want to say that during the pandemic, we introduced a new program that the mayor conceived of so that people, families could get out of their apartments and houses and socialize in a safe way. That program was the Open Streets program, which is now being made permanent. And every community throughout the city, we want to work with partners to create those open street spaces and work with local organizations, local elected officials to program them. I will say that all in Queens are exceptional. One really stands out, and that is 34th Avenue. It's been in the New York Times, covered by the Queens Chronicle. So, national news is celebrating that miraculous street, as is our local media, and most importantly, the local communities. So I'd really like to thank the leadership, the community board members, and all residents of Community Board 4 in Jackson Heights, Community Board 3 in Jackson Heights, for supporting that effort. Again, change isn't easy. We've always made ourselves available. I'm blessed to have an amazing deputy, Jason Van Ray, and borough planner, John O'Neill, who have met with people for, against, people that wanted to bring us new ideas, and we're willing to work with communities. So, we've been doing a lot of work in 2020 and 2021. The bread and butter of what we do, the sidewalk repairs, the street resurfacing. Again, we're playing catch up. We just hope that, the weather holds up, because we're in a lot of community boards doing a lot of paving. And my staff is always available on the phone. We're always happy to meet on site to see what you're seeing. And I look forward to hearing your questions. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Mike Dockett. I'm your Parks Commissioner for the Borough of Queens. I brought two people along with me. Right, so I'm responsible pretty much for everything that goes on in parks, good, bad, throughout the borough. But there are a lot of folks that work with me day to day. So I brought two along. One is Eric Getz. He's the regional manager. So he's in charge of the parks in these 4 community boards, and he's the guy that you would go to on a day-to-day basis for any problem. If you want to have an event in the park, a wedding in the park, art in the park, issue with maintenance in the park, and that's Eric Getz in the front here. Eric, could you just stand up so they can see who you are? He's your key contact for this region. And then next to him is Tyler Wilcox, and Tyler runs one of the largest forestry programs in the nation, and it happens to be here in the borough of Queens. He's our Queens Forestry Director. So any problems with trees, your sidewalks, issues with pests in trees, anything related to trees, Tyler is the person, and this Tyler, if you would stand up. And he's new to Queens. We got him from the Bronx. He was the deputy in the Bronx, so welcome to Queens. He's hitting the ground running, doing a great job, cleaning up after the recent storms that we've had. So parks is more than just maintenance and trees. It's a place where people come for respite, right? So we learned this during the COVID crisis, when we had to close parks and people didn't have anywhere to go and everything else was closed. It wasn't a kind of a good time, and we realized how important parks were, like to the social well-being, the mental health of the communities, right? So we quickly got those parks reopened when it was safe, and people thronged to the parks. The attendance in the parks increased dramatically. And it was good to see. And so people got used to coming out, working out now outdoors. You see people using the parks in ways they hadn't before. So that's a good thing. And we are doing a good job here in Queens in keeping these parks clean. And if you see anything that's different than that, that's what Eric is here for, to help with. So in these 4 districts, we've been blessed with a lot of money from the elected officials. That's your council folks, the borough president, the mayor, to really invest and fix up our parks. So we have over 58 capital projects that are either recently completed or in construction now, or they're in the procurement phase, meaning that they're out to bid and we're looking for a contractor to build them, or they're in the design phase. So we have architects working to actually design it. So that's a testament to the investment that the elected officials make in this borough. And Queens kind of leads the way out of the 5 boroughs in capital investment in parks. And I just want to thank the borough president, the former council member, and the mayor for that support of parks. Thank you. We have a large skilled trades division at parks, so that's plumbers, electricians, carpenters, that kind of thing, to maintain the parks, and they're out there actively working and putting their best foot forward to keep our parks in top condition. So tonight I'm here to answer your questions about any of your parks and any of these projects, and I'm here for you. So if you need help and you want to use the parks in a way that we hadn't imagined before, please come and see me and reach out to our local managers, and I'll look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and good evening. My name is Raimundo Gonzalez. I am an Applicant Services Program Specialist with Fema, and I am an expert in the Individual and Households Program. Even if you were not affected directly by the flooding event, I believe everyone knows someone who was, and it is my hope that you will take today's information and spread the word to those who need it. First and foremost, it's important to know that there is a deadline to apply for FEMA assistance. Right now, the deadline is November 5th. It is likely that that will be extended, but we do want people to apply for FEMA aid as soon as possible so that they can get the assistance that they deserve. Right now, because there are multiple disasters throughout the country, we are experiencing a high call volume to our helpline. The best way to apply for assistance is online at disasterassistance.gov. We do have opened a disaster recovery center here in Queens. That address is in Queens College, 152-45 Melbourne Avenue in Flushing, New York, and they're available every single day from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. It's important to note that we try to manage expectations. FEMA is not a substitute for flood insurance. FEMA is designed to make your residence livable, sanitary, and safe, but it will not cover all of your losses. It is designed to meet basic needs. Currently, the max that you can receive for home repair is $36,000. The max that you can receive for your personal property is also $36,000. Not everyone will receive the max. If you do have either homeowner's insurance with a sewer backup rider, or if you have flood insurance, it's important that you file a claim with your insurance. The law is designed so that we cannot duplicate the same benefits, so you will need to file with your insurance first. If you're denied your claim, if they don't pay out the amount that you were expecting, or if there's a delay in paying out, then we can definitely step in and provide assistance. We understand that the Queens community is very diverse, and there might be a lot of individuals who are not here in the States legally. So long as they have a minor child who is born in the US, they will be able to apply on their behalf. And the same thing goes for anyone with a green card. They can also apply for assistance. Other assistance that FEMA is offering, we are offering funeral assistance in the event that someone lost someone in the flood. We have medical and dental assistance if your medical insurance is not covering that particular expense. FEMA may be able to cover it. We also have child care assistance. If you had to hire someone to take care of your children because of the situation, we might be able to reimburse you for that. There's certain miscellaneous items that we can pay reimbursed for outright, mainly generators because the power went out, and dehumidifiers because you use that to prevent mold from spreading. For those of you who have already applied and you have not had an inspector visit your home, and it's been 14 days, it's important for you to then contact FEMA just to make sure that everything is still in process. And you can do that by calling the helpline or visiting the Disaster Recovery Center in Queens College. I also want to, again, managing expectations. There is no assistance for stored clothing or for stored food. So if you had your winter clothes in the basement flooded, unfortunately, there is no assistance for those items. We would refer you either to call 311 or contact the Red Cross for those items. To my business owners, my landlords, unfortunately, the program, the individual and households program, is only designed to help you for your primary home. If your business was affected or you're a local nonprofit, you would contact the Small Business Administration. If you are not satisfied with the amount or the decision from FEMA, it is typical to appeal. It's very common for you to go back and forth between the decision that FEMA has made and then you requesting a reconsideration. But please note that you only have 60 days from the date of the decision to appeal, and then FEMA will have up to 90 days to respond to that appeal. So it is a rather lengthy time frame. So we ask that you submit your appeals as soon as possible. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Assistant Chief Galen Frierson, the Borough Commander for Patrol Borough, Queens North. Thank you for having me tonight. Thank you, Mr. Borough President, for having us here. Thank you for coordinating this event where we can sit down and collaborate on working better on serving our community. Just on the crime side, crime in Queens North is down for the week, for the 28-day and year-to-date. So we're trending in the right direction on all cylinders at this point in time. This is a great opportunity for the community and other city agents to collaborate and bring ideas to the table on how to develop better community relations and how to tackle issues that are affecting our neighborhoods. Under the current police commissioner, Dermot Shea, Chief of Department Rodney Harrison, and Chief Patrol Juanita Holm, many new and innovative programs such as Community Solutions, Precinct Customer Surveys, Citizen Police Academy, the Precinct Commanders Advisory Board continue to make the police more accessible and responsive to our community needs. These programs give you, the community, a say in how the police officers interact with you, and I think that's very important. Many new programs such as Blue Chip Basketball for youth have given officers a greater opportunity to interact with our youth and become positive role models for them. This basketball tournament was very successful and many bonds were built and long-term lasting relationships formed. We're going to be going forward with a flag football league coming up, and things are going to be expanded to other sports also. Another program in Queens North, again, is our Girls Talk program, a program where female officers meet monthly with girls from ages 11 to 20 to mentor and empower these young ladies. The program focuses on young girls' issues such as self-esteem, confidence, peer pressure. We also recently started a life skill course in the 111, again, dealing with young adults. So again, we're looking to outreach for young people and young adults. And also change the look and change the interaction between young people and the police. They'll be able to see the police in a different light with these programs. These are many of the programs that the NYPD are involved in. A lot of times we don't give ourselves the good press, and we are doing nice things and good things for the youth. So on the same level, our precinct youth coordination officers, again, just had a youth fair where over 400 youth came out, and we got some of them summer jobs. JCPenney, Target, 7-Eleven, Denny's, Starbucks are some of the companies that came out and that were willing to work with our youth and give them jobs for the summer. We also recently conducted a successful backpack giveaway in Hinton Park in the 115, again, giving back to the community. So again, successful events that are happening here in Queens North. We had a successful 4th of July event, again, fireworks back in Queens, down at Gantry State Park. Again, well attended, no issues at all, and people had a good time. The U.S. Open was back wide open again this year. 2 weeks, I worked 22 days straight, all right? So again, tired. But again, it was a good event, no issues. We did have the tropical storm during that event, and our officers rose to the occasion, assisting people along with park, sanitation. We all worked together, collaborated well together to, again, assist folks in regards to that. Upcoming events right now, this weekend, we have the Governor's Ball at Citi Field, I think Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think there's a Nas concert at Forest Hills Park, actually tomorrow night, Forest Hill Stadium rather. And then at the end of the month, we have Rolling Loud, again, at Citi Field. So again, a lot of things are going on in Queens North. A lot of things are opening wide back opening. And my cops, again, they're here tonight. All the COs are here tonight for all of my precincts. And again, their cops have rose to the occasion. I just want to, on that same note, I just want to mention there was some negative articles, I think, in some of the local papers about how cops rose to the occasion during the storm. And I can tell you the COs are here. Our cops stood up and were out there helping folks in the community. So any press to the contrary, again, is a falsehood. All right. As far as, again, violence is concerned, as I mentioned to you before, violence is down across the board. Shootings are down 20% within the borough. We've had an increase in firearms arrests. Again, our firearms arrests are up 33%, 170 from 128. So my cops are putting themselves in harm's way to keep the community safe. So again, I just want to say that we're here to serve you. We don't get everything right the first time. The most important thing that we can have is a conversation and communication, and let's put the issues on the table and be fair and consistent with each other. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Mr. President. Congratulations on your victorious election. I want to thank everybody for coming. It's always good to see everybody. My name is Iggy Azara, and I am the Sanitation Department's Chief of Queens West Borough. That encompasses Community Board 1, 2, 3, and 4 that are here this evening, and also 5, 6, and 9. So it's a vast landscape. It's a lot of moving parts, but I'm a lifelong Queens resident. I've worked for 22 years in the Borough of Queens. I know it very well. I know a lot of the problems. I know the vast diversity and the vast landscape. And I've had a lot of experience in dealing with many of you in this room now, along with my counterparts in the other agencies. I'm here to serve. And I'll just touch upon a couple of things that we're most famous for, and that's collection and recycling, plowing the streets in the winter, and cleaning the streets. But before I do that, I just want to put it out there that we are currently picking up any storm-related debris. In layman's terms, if you were damaged for any reason, from Tropical Storm Ida, put it out. Regardless of when your collection day is, just continue to put it out. We won't be giving anybody any summonses over it. I know in the past, you've been required to hire private demolition companies to get rid of this sheetrock and stuff like that, but now we're making the exception and we're taking everything. So anything that was damaged, and I know in this caucus, many people were, including myself. So please, put it out. We are getting it, we are taking it, we are diverting special trucks as well as our regular household trucks to get it. So I want everybody in this room to get the word out there. I know there's a lot of trepidation amongst the constituents, so I want to be here to let you know that we're here for you. So many people are worried about their regular household garbage and recycling. There hasn't been much of a delay or any kind of interruption in service due to the storm. We do, however, experience some delays after major holidays. Most of our 311 complaints can be directed to our community affairs, and they filter all that stuff down to me. Snow. I know it's a four-letter word, snow. We don't expect any issues whatsoever. We are well-staffed, and our equipment is well-maintained, and we have plenty of salt in reserves, okay? So last year, I like to say, we had a small victory over Mother Nature because she's almost undefeated. And we don't expect to have any deviations or any of that stuff from here. Our staffing is, if you don't know this, we've been hiring for the last couple of months, and we expect to hire up until early April. All right, so we're going to have staffing levels that will have, over 400 sanitation workers in Western Queens for each shift. So that means 12-hour shifts, 400 in the daytime, 400 at night. Hopefully, we don't have to deploy too many of these, but we do ready on the threat of snow. So a lot of times you'll see us parked on the side of the highway waiting for the snow to come. But if it doesn't snow, then we're ready for it either way. We're doing snow training exercises. What does that mean? Well, outside it's 70 degrees. It's a beautiful night. Come Sunday, you will see our orange salt spreaders driving around. Okay, don't be alarmed. We're not expecting any storms. We're not, we don't think it's going to snow, but we want to ready our people, and we want them to know what it's like to drive around with a big plow affixed to the front of your truck. We want to try and vet out any issues we may have with our routes and any unexpected obstacles. We have a lot of those outdoor dining structures, all right? They were a little bit of an obstacle for us last year, but thankfully we were able to mitigate and manage our way around that, and we had a successful snow season. Again, if you see us out there, we'll be out there for the next 6 to 8 weeks, and that's the reason for that. Cleaning the streets. As many of you took budget cuts, okay, because of COVID. I'm happy to announce that we've restored just about all of our cleaning initiatives prior COVID levels. What does that mean? That means those litter baskets that you see on the corner of Roosevelt Avenue, I know everybody's familiar with Roosevelt Avenue, are now getting 7-day service, okay? There won't be a day that they're not tipped. Just for your own information, those litter baskets are not meant for household garbage. I know it sounds simple, but most of the constituents aren't aware of that. Those are just mainly for street litter. So if you and I are walking down the street in a cup of coffee, we have a place to put the litter basket. If you have a bag of garbage and your collection day is not for 2 days, we expect you to store that in your building. We have two of our members from our community affairs. Most of the elected officials and their staff know them well. They're going to touch upon a couple of other little stuff that we have. We have safe events. We have community composting. So Stephen, would you like to comment on that? Special household waste drop-off sites, the sites that DSNY has, you can go and drop off some of these items on a regular basis. So that's going to be every Saturday from 10 to 5, and then the last Friday of each month to accommodate the traffic. Those sites are now open again also. So feel free to. Thank you, Chief.
Can everybody hear me a little bit better now? Okay. Did you hear me about the safe events in the back? No? Okay, I'm sorry. I see one person that may not have heard. Safe events, those events where you can attend and bring some of the items that we don't normally take with household collection, those events are going to be taking place again. Okay, the next one is going to be taking place on October 9th, correct? In Cunningham Park. Thank you, Joe. Special household waste drop-off sites, they're also open to the public. All right, again, you could take items that we don't normally take with household collection, such as paints, batteries, fluorescent bulbs, things of that nature. If you have any questions, you can come on over and see Joe. You could see myself. We'll be here for the rest of the evening. Any questions about particular items, we'll be more than happy to tell you how you could dispose of them. Also, Curbside Organics. So if you happen to live in an area where we had Curbside Organics in the past, that program is now back online, except the only difference is that you will not be automatically enrolled in the program. Okay, you're going to need to go to our website and enroll in the program. So you have to punch in your address and just some other contact information, and then we'll put you on the route. So it will not be automatic. That's it for me with updates. Again, if anyone has any specific issues, feel free to come on over to Joe or myself. We'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Just one other thing that I don't want to be remiss. We encourage civic associations to take part in our agency. What does that mean? We have volunteer cleanups. We have adopt-a-basket programs. I often joke around that it takes a village to raise a child, but it really takes a village to clean a city. And we encourage all your members, big or small, to get involved. We do offer tool loan programs. What does that mean? If you have, let's say, 50 people that volunteer to clean up a section of your area, we will give you the brooms, the shovels, the bags, the cans, the gloves. I mean, we give you just about everything. Sometimes Steven comes out and assists in the whole program. And then guess what? After you guys bag everything up and sweep it all up, we'll come by later on and take it away as well. It's an excellent, excellent program. I recommend it to everybody. There's no limit on how many we can do. We have tons of tools. I encourage everybody to get involved. I've given out my business card to just about everybody in the room, I believe. I encourage you to text me, email me, whatever you think is bothering you. Somebody from my staff, sometimes me personally, will get back to you, okay? It is very important to have neighborhood involvement because everybody has a little bit of stake in their own neighborhood. If you have any questions, I'll be here for the remainder of the night. I'd be more than happy to answer them. And I'm going to pass it along. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. My name is Brian Honan. I'm the Vice President of Intergovernmental Relations at the New York City Housing Authority. And first, I want to thank the Borough President for hosting this event. We've worked together for many years, and I can tell you that there is not a greater advocate for not only nature residents in his former district, but throughout the entire borough, in the city, and I really appreciate the partnership. But tonight is really inspiring to be all in the same room at the same time. As much as I appreciate the safety of Zoom, it's nice to talk without using the hand function. It's nice to, not to be on mute, and it's nice to, see people. And the leadership in the room too is truly inspiring. Councilmember Van Bramer has been a tremendous, advocate for nature as well. Costa, Bishop Taylor, and of course the leadership that we get from nature residents, Ms. Cougar, and Cotton Morris, April Simpson, and Cheryl Wilkins, all amazing tenant leaders, and all of them, and what folks have to remember, this is a voluntary position, but they work twice as hard as probably, anybody. I would put their time card against anybody. So it really is amazing. Their leadership is really appreciated, and that is what a community is all about. So in this area, we were hit pretty hard by the storm. Many of our developments did fairly well, maybe not like Sandy, but if you live at Woodside houses, you lost your entire boiler. And we have now 2 mobile boilers that are providing hot water for many residents for about a week. It was rough. It was really, and we're coming back now, and we're trying to get that boiler back online, but this may be an issue that we're dealing with all winter long. So, gentlemen from Fema, I might need an application, but this is something that we're going to be working with together, because this is really rough for the folks at Woodside houses, and we'll be working with them, together all winter long. The pandemic has hit nature residents harder than most people in the city. It's hit the entire city, but it's hit nature residents particularly hard. I will encourage you, if you're a NYCHA resident and you fell behind in your rent, there are two things you can do. Of course, the state offers the ERAP program. NYCHA has made it easier for NYCHA residents to apply for ERAP. If you go to our website and you give NYCHA consent, we will apply on your behalf. It is a very, very long form that the state has provided for ERAP. It takes quite some time, but we will do that for you as long as you give us your consent, and we want to make sure that you get the money that you deserve. On top of that, if your rent or if your income went down, you can get your rent adjusted and to reflect your current economic situation. And I know at NYCHA that used to take long. It used to take 3, sometimes 4 months. HUD has given us a waiver, and we can do that much quicker now and without any proof of documentation. So before we used to say, give us a letter from your former employee, which was very hard to do. Now if you self-certify, we will, tell us what you lost. We will adjust your rent quickly as well. It's also a very exciting time right now with NYCHA and public housing nationally. Infrastructure was mentioned earlier. Nationally, Senator Schumer, Congressman Maloney, and the entire delegation are fighting as hard as they can to make sure that there is infrastructure funding in Washington for public housing. The current House bill right now has $80 billion for public housing nationally. NYCHA is set to do very well under that formula. So if you see your federal elected officials, number one, say thank you. Number two, say, fight to make sure that that funding stays in those bills. And we want to make sure in the end product that public housing does very well. And in Albany, it is, I met earlier today with Lieutenant Governor Brian Benjamin, who has made, for the first time in memory, public housing one of his top priorities in Albany, to make sure that not only NYCHA, but public housing throughout New York State is finally recognized and make sure that it gets the attention that it deserves. A lot going on, and if you have an individual complaint, if you're a NYCHA resident tonight, please see Courtney. She's here in the front row. You may not want to, raise your hand and tell the whole room your individual problem, but Courtney will take your complaint and we will get back to you, before the week is over. I appreciate everybody's time. Again, I appreciate the leadership in the room, and here to take questions. Thanks so much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jessica Silver. I'm Assistant Comptroller for Public Affairs for New York City Comptroller Scott Stringer. I'm really pleased to be here tonight. Thank you to the Queens Borough President for bringing us together and hosting this evening. And as Brian said, it's great to be here in person. Zoom is good, but it's nice to see all your faces. So for those of you who maybe are not familiar with our office, the Comptroller is the Chief Financial Officer for the City of New York. We conduct audits on behalf of the city, register contracts for those doing business with the city. We oversee the city pension funds. We provide budget analysis. But what I wanted to focus on specifically tonight is our claims process. I know many people in the area suffered damage due to Hurricane Ida, and I wanted to provide a little bit of information for those who may want to pursue a claim with our office. So the Comptroller's Office is authorized to settle claims in cases where damage to person or property is the result of city negligence. So I do want to say up front, it's important to know that there generally isn't city liability with cases of extreme weather, but anyone is welcome to pursue a claim with our office. You would need to submit a claim form within 90 days of the specific incident. And once claims are submitted to our office, we investigate every claim. If it is determined that there's city liability, we are authorized to offer settlement for reasonable damages on behalf of the city. I did bring some physical claim forms tonight, so if anyone would like one, there's paper copies of our claim form right at that back table, and they're also available on our website, and anyone can submit them online. Anyone who does submit a claim will hear back from our office I'm here to answer questions about claims or anything else. And if anyone's less familiar with us but is seeking constituent services, we're also happy to help anyone with anything, challenges, problems you're having, either with the office or with government or anything on your minds. We can be reached at 212-669-3916. But again, I'm happy to participate in the conversation and hang around afterwards if folks have specific items for our office. And thanks again for having us here.
And now it brings me great honor to bring up my good friend, someone who's delivered over and over for Western Queens, like my good friend Costa. And I know we just left an event a little while ago, and I want to thank you for being here. My good friend, Council Member Jimmy Van Bramer.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank Borough President Richards, who obviously is all over the borough every day, but has been an incredible presence in Western Queens, so much so that we see each other almost every single day, including just now having left a great event at the Chocolate Factory Theater in Dutch Kills, their brand new home. And I want to say thank you again. Right after the storm, the borough president was out with me in Sunnyside Gardens and Phipps Garden Apartments. He has been everywhere. So thank you for this focus on this amazing part of our great borough. I see half of the NYPD is here tonight. I so want to thank them, but also specifically to praise Inspector Wise at the 108th Precinct, who's been an incredible leader, very, very communicative. We work really well together. I want to thank you. And Inspector Jenkins, who has also been incredible in the 114. So a big round of applause for those leaders. And Bishop Taylor, we were together just yesterday at the Long Island City Partnership Gala. It is great to be out again and in person with all of you, and it's so great. Our public housing leadership, I know Carol Wilkins was at the Chocolate Factory Theater just now with us. I don't know if she's already made it back here, but Ms. Koger and Ms. Cotton Morris, and of course the one and only April Simpson, we thank all of you for all your work, and to the agencies. I know lots of important questions coming up, and I know you're going to really deliver for our folks. And of course, I have the privilege of representing the folks in Sunnyside, Woodside, Long Island City, Queensbridge, Ravenswood, and the Woodside houses. So hope extra special attention is delivered to all of those great people. So thank you again to all of you. Thank you, Borough President Richards, for having this incredible evening of focus on Western Queens, and look forward to the Q&A. Thank you very much.
All righty, so now what we all been waiting for. So let me just say, I've been running town halls for a long time. So, you know, one of the things I always say, starting off, let's remain respectful, even if you don't like the answer you get. Secondly, no calling out. It's like almost like my 5-year-old's kindergarten class, right? Well, first grade now. So we try to abide by those rules the children have to abide by in public school as well. So with that being said, I will bring up Brent, and we will get through questions. And once again, if you have not received an index card, just raise your hand. The staff will bring that to you, and then you can write your question down. And sort of, it's not to suppress First Amendment rights. It's to try to get through as many questions when we have a big crowd. If there are a lot of questions, then we can open it up a little bit more to let people give their perspectives and things. But I just wanted to make sure we put that out there so we can get through as many questions as possible. So I'll hand it over to you, Brent.
Just for the sake of the cameras, we've been asked to, Brittany and I have been asked to move to the middle to ask the questions. So we're just going to go up there, and then with the response, we're going to ask to keep it to around 3 minutes, because we do have a significant amount of questions that we want to get through. So just give us a second, we'll make our way to the middle, and then we'll take it from there. Thanks.
stay here.
Yeah. Go ahead, Britt. So she's going to start it off.
Okay. So I am going to be facing you all with the audience here. Hello again, everyone. Thank you, Borough President Donovan Richards. I am Brittany Scott, the Director of Constituent Services for the office of this great man right here. So, first question.
I pay her to say that.
He did not. So, the first question is for DOT. With the proliferation of motor scooters without license plates, driving on sidewalks, taking the wrong way on the one-way, on streets and being reckless, what will DOT do to help with this crisis?
You on?
All right, just checking. So obviously we work very, very closely with our partners on NYPD for enforcement. So, you know, obviously we want all roadway users to make sure that they're following the rules, particularly if it's a one-way street. Cyclists, cars, folks on e-bikes and scooters all need to abide by those rules.
Do you have a specific location for the person who asked that question? That's vague. Is there a specific location where this is an issue?
Is there a specific location on the issue?
Don't be shy. All right, you can just see us at the end of the meeting and give us the location.
Next question.
I think I'm giving the feedback, I'm sorry.
Next question. How can we reduce the impact of large 18-wheel commercial vehicles on smaller streets in Astoria? The infrastructure below and around these streets cannot support it, and were not designed for the traffic on them. And this is around 24th Street.
So, so the proliferation of trucks, obviously we saw this throughout the pandemic when folks were really relying on things like Fresh Direct and Amazon and all of these delivery services. What I will say is that for local deliveries, trucks, you know, they need, as long as they have a manifest, they're allowed to be on local streets. With regard to the mega trucks, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, are they like the 18-wheelers? Yes. Those technically, what is written into the city rules is there's a very specific route that they should be on, and they should not be on residential streets. So grocery stores, you know, they try to be efficient, but they're, you know, and I know Councilmember Van Bramer knows this very well. We had some 18-wheeler tractor trailers driving down Skillman Street with a bike lane on it, making local deliveries. What I will say is that we work very closely, New York City DOT, NYPD, and the state. We work very closely on like ticketing operations, surveillance operations. We have an entire unit that deals with freight. So I think, was it 24th Avenue?
It was 24th Street.
24th Street.
Yeah.
So I can say that I worked with the former council member and now executive director of this great space on trucks. We are publishing a report. We do have a process in place where we're redoing rules. What I can promise is that I will take this back to our freight division. I'm happy to report back to the borough president, and maybe this is a topic that we can discuss at borough board or borough cabinet.
Great.
Great. I don't know if NYPD wants to weigh in from an enforcement aspect or.
So from the enforcement aspect, again, we're talking about the 114 precinct. Again, we can work together with the DOT and we can address that problem. So going forward, I think the coordination should be a little bit tighter and we can address that.
Great, thank you.
Should be green. Oh, there it goes. No? Okay, we'll get you another mic.
Our next question is for NYCHA. What was the funding that went to NYCHA specifically earmarked for?
Proposed federal problem.
I believe it's the federal funding coming down, the one they're supposed to.
So the federal funding that is in the current House bill, which you haven't gotten yet, right now it is at the discretion of the HUD Secretary to give us for large infrastructure projects. So what we would like to do with this funding, and we've already been talking to HUD about it now, rather than use it the way we use for the Sandy funding, which I know you're very familiar with, and which I know Donovan Richards is very familiar with, we're not going to go in and replace individual items like a boiler or a roof or things like this. This is going to be comprehensive rehab. So this is going to be getting inside people's apartments, replacing their kitchens and bathrooms and upgrading their apartments, but also getting into the systems, making sure that you have new elevators, new boilers in the grounds as written. So in our conversations with the Secretary's office, we've told them that we would, for instance, tell them Astoria Houses needs $150 million in repairs. This is what we want to do, and they will reimburse us for that work. So, and we want to work through the entire portfolio that way. The $38 billion that is being contemplated right now in the House bill would be able to get us to a state of good repair throughout the portfolio. So we learned a lot from Sandy. We learned a lot from past funding, but the type of funding that we're talking now would get us, for the first time in the history of NYCHA, comprehensive rehab.
And let me just add to that, and there's a piece of legislation that is attached to this specific bill, which is, I believe, being sponsored by Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez, which would give boroughs an allocation. So in the past, and no offense to Brian's, not Brian's fault, you know, money would go to Manhattan or something. I'm more interested in money coming to Queens. So, so the borough allocations will make a big difference. And then also, and we trust but we verify when money comes in. So part of that bill would require transparency, your reporting mechanisms put in place as well. So I'm hoping that that bill, which it seems like it's moving in the right direction, God willing, knock on wood, will also pass along with the package so that we will know how NYCHA is spending our money and how efficient and effectively that money is being spent, and the timelines and timetables. So once again, no offense to Brian, because I've worked with him for years, but he's not the commissioner yet. So I want to make sure that that money is getting into the very developments we know have been hit hard here in Queens. So I just wanted to add on to that.
Thank you.
Next question. Next question.
So these two questions are related. How can we build more properly affordable housing in this zip code, along with rent controlled and commercial rent control? That's along 24th Street. And then related, how can we build more affordable housing that is scarce to residential neighborhoods, such as on Hoyt and 31st Avenue, or a development in Astoria?
I guess, I mean, I could, so, well, one, I mean, it depends on the sites. Are they private sites? Because there's very little public land in Western Queens really left. So that would have to be initiated if you're requesting a specific development site, or you recognize a specific development site. That would have to be initiated by whoever owns that specific site. In terms of how do we get deeper affordability, that is part of this package coming out of Washington. This is why we're watching it very closely. The infrastructure bill also has allocations that would go towards the production of affordable housing. So that's a loaded question, a very heavy question, We're going to have a new mayor in a few months. We're going to have a new council in a few months. Even if you wanted to do the housing, if it requires a zoning change, you know, it has to go through the community board, through the borough president, through the mayor's office, city department of city planning. But if there are locations that you're aware of, you should get those to us, especially if they're city-owned sites, so that we can push the administration. And one thing we always push for, and in my former capacity in the council, I chaired the zoning committee, but I also represented the Rockaways, which was one of the few places in New York City that actually had public land left. We're actually finalizing a deal to build a community land trust out of the Rockaways. It's going to be the first community land trust in Queens. You could clap for that. And we're also doing about 10,000 units of real affordable housing out there. We just broke ground on some supportive housing out there, about 150 units, women veterans with children, and the service providers WIN, which is run by Christine Quinn now, and that's a really good project. So those are the sort of projects we want to continue to model. And then, you know, Casa and I, Casa alluded to the project that's going to happen here, which is going to produce a sizable amount of affordable housing. But it's not just about building the housing. You have to build the services with it. So whether it's commercial development, community facilities, so you're going to have a brand new state-of-the-art community center, but you'll have, you know, some affordable housing, really deep affordable housing part of this project as well. So that's a question of priorities and subsidy. And that's something we're going to be watching to make sure that especially the next mayor, because I pretty much ate up the affordable housing budget in Queens as a city council member back then. But now, as the borough president, my job is to make sure that all of Queens is getting its fair share of the city subsidy for affordable housing. So that's going to be a conversation for next year, but I would urge you to continue to watch this bill in Washington. We may have to call some U.S. senators ourselves, even from New York. Even though we're from New York, Sinema and Manchin, these people are holding up this bill, which could really put us on good footing to make sure public housing and all of the things that we need to see funded coming out of this pandemic especially happen. So it's a loaded question, but to be continued. Thank you. Next question.
Our next question is for FEMA. It says, can you speak a little bit about subsidized business interruption insurance and also flood insurance?
So just to clarify, I am a representative of the Individual and Households Program. So this program only provides assistance for individual persons and their homes. There is no FEMA grant, meaning there is no free money from FEMA for businesses. You will have to apply through the Small Business Administration for a low interest disaster loan. If you need that phone number, I have that phone number on here. The Small Business Administration phone number is 1-800-659-2955. I can tell you that for businesses that were impacted, they're offering a 2.885% interest loan, and they allow up to 30 years to pay back. For homeowners and renters who were affected, you're able to get a 30-year loan at a rate of 1.563%. So this is as low as it gets as far as loans are concerned. You don't typically get this rate from a bank. Obviously, nobody wants a loan because they have to repay it, but I do want to manage expectations and let you know that there are no FEMA grants, no free money from FEMA for businesses. As far as flood insurance goes, I do want as many people who can afford flood insurance to get flood insurance. You do not need to live in a flood zone for your home to flood, as we saw with this disaster. And you can get more information on that online as far as their phone number or their website.
And let me add, I think we are in the process, Frank, I don't know if you could correct me, I think we're going to be planning a virtual town hall around with SBA and some of the other agencies due to the tropical storm, so you should stay in touch with the office on that.
So segue from that, and this is a two-part question focused on DSNY and NYPD. In light of the damage caused by Ida, why hasn't there a more continuous effort to clean the storm drains and sewers? And then the follow-up question from the constituent is, I realize it is a difficult task, but will it take someone getting killed before the NYPD cracks down on illegal dirt bikes and e-bikes? So if DSNY wants to take the first part.
We clean the catch basins on every corner. So in addition to the mechanical brooms during street cleaning rules and alternate side parking, they cover all the catch basins, meaning everything above grade. Sweeping the curb also limits the amount of litter that gets washed into our catch basins, thus clogging them. For areas that don't have street cleaning, we do have what's called a motorized litter patrol, meaning we have sanitation workers assigned to certain routes that are more prone to flooding, but not limited to flooding. And prior to the storms, we go out and we do hand sweeping of the catch basins and anything that we feel may cause water, which may cause some sort of block to our storm drains. Anything below grade is part of our friends from DEP's purview. I'm not sure what their whole process is. You'd have to ask them. But as far as our role in it is, we typically do more after the fact. Most of the time, it's not as devastating as it was last time, but as you can see, when the call comes in for something this devastating, we do respond immediately.
And if you have a specific location, you can get that to us, and I will put on I chaired a few committees in the council. Environmental protection is one of them. And before DEP was actually cleaning catch basins, I think on a 3 or 4 year process, they were required to do that. Now they're doing it on a yearly cycle, and Jamani Williams, public advocate Jamani Williams, and I actually had co-sponsored legislation that would require them to also report on each and every catch basin that they clean. Now that bill did sunset, so the council is going to have to obviously pass that bill again, amend that bill, and move it into the future so we can get the reporting on the catch basin. So we need to see more transparency there. But if you have a specific location, you can get that to us and we'll make sure DEP. The first step is always to call 311. I know everybody's going to say, I don't want to call 311, but 311 is important for us because it enables us to track data, and it enables us to know if DEP is doing their job. So if you just come to a meeting like this and you write that question, it doesn't help us if there's no 311 report. Once you call 311 and you get your number, they're going to give you a C- or whatever number it is. You then can call our office and we can follow up, or you can call your local council member or the community board and we can follow up. But that receipt of complaint is critical for us because it enables us to know if DEP is actually cleaning the catch basin and doing their job. So onus is on us as well. The 311 app actually is also great. If you don't have the 311 app, I urge you to download it. And I'm the borough president. Sometimes I just want to see if DOT is going to do their job or DEP. And actually, I will say that the app they're really responsive on the app. And I don't know if I'm flagged in the system. I don't think I am, but they're really responsive. So download the app. You're still going to get a complaint number, and then you should follow up with us so that we can follow up with the agencies. And that's across the board. Even when you're dealing with the NYPD, if you call about dirt bikes, if they get I think it's 5 complaints about one issue in a night, do you know the inspector of the precinct is supposed to give you a personal call? All righty, I just gave you something. Sorry, inspectors. Am I right about that? I forgot the number of complaints, but the precinct, maybe it's not the inspector, but the precinct is supposed to give you y'all can correct me, I mean, because y'all gonna be on the hook if I'm wrong. So once a certain amount of complaints are flagged on 311, they have to give a call to you. All right, just some inside information.
So just to follow up on the second part of that question on the NYPD side, again, as the borough president said, calling or documenting that call within 311 is very important. Again, that's how we're going to be held to task on that. And the commanding officers sitting here, again, they can tell you, they hear from me all the time as it relates to ATV and motorcycle enforcement. It's something that we do consistently ongoing. We've taken more motorcycles and ATVs off the street in the past year than we've taken maybe in the last 3 years or so. So there is enforcement out there. The thing is, if it's going on in your neighborhood, it's still a problem. So again, documenting that through 311, also through your NCOs, getting in contact with your NCOs and letting them know exactly where these things are going on. And again, we're not chasing folks, because again, God forbid we chase someone and someone hurts someone or hurt themselves, then it becomes an NYPD issue. We try to do it safely, and we've been doing it safely, and we will continue to do it safely. But again, it's an ongoing issue. I know there's been some legislation, again, with increasing fines and everything else in regards to that. So it's going to have to be a coordinated effort. But if there's a particular location, again, in a particular precinct, the CO is here, and they can tell you exactly what they've been doing to try to address that particular situation. So is there a particular precinct?
Whoever had that question? Or was it the park? Astoria Park, I know it had a big issue. Everybody's shy tonight.
And as it relates to the parks, the story.
All right, go ahead.
So,
Yes, you got a location.
Before you start, Bishop, again, as it relates to the park, we've been doing work in Astoria Park. Inspector Jenkins can speak to that. In Flushing Meadow Park, Inspector Tremelli can speak to that. Like I said, we've been taking ATVs and motorcycles. It's an ongoing issue, and it's something that we're going to continue to address, but we need that coordinated effort between parks, ourselves, and also the legislation. I'm sorry,
Bishop Taylor.
I'm sorry, Bishop.
So I guess my question was, what do we do? Like, we see these pop-up gangs of ATVs, like 40 deep, 30 deep, commandeer the whole street, riding down Steinway. It's like, it blows my mind. Right. How do you deal with that? Well, and that happens all over the city, I guess.
Yeah, it's happening all over the city, Bishop. And again, a lot of that is on social media. We monitor social media. Like I said, we have a weekend initiative that throughout the borough that we address those particular pop-ups. A lot of times, again, it's posted on social media that we're looking to do this, we're looking to do a ride-out. So we try to address and coordinate that and have a coordinated effort between the precinct, highway, aviation, again, not to be chasing these individuals down Steinway Street or down Queens Boulevard where folks are going to get hurt or worse, killed. So we got to have a coordinated effort in doing that. And I think we've been doing a good job in trying to do that. But again, I think it's a work in progress that we have to continue to do. So again, if you have a particular location, particular precinct, we can talk about that at this point in time if you do. All right.
All right. Next question is, how can residents give input and feedback on development projects and construction sites before the work gets underway?
So whenever development projects are proposed or going through the ULURP process, community board chairs or district managers, if you want to stand, please stand. Did y'all leave? Are you here, Maria? Okay. So I would urge you to find out where your local community board is. When development projects are happening, they are mandated by ULURP process to be calendared and to be heard. So it gives you an opportunity to hear from whomever wants to develop a site, and you're able to testify actually. And I know a lot of things changed because of COVID, so you're able to actually do it virtually now. On tomorrow, and it's something we do, we send out a press release. So when items are coming before me, like tomorrow, there are 9 items that are going to come before the borough president's office. If you watch our social media, we post. We can't put out anything. We can't do massive e-blasts because I'm coming out of an election right now, so the city does not allow me to send out mass communications to my list at this moment. But after November 3rd, we will get back to that. So I urge you to sign up for our email list, which is queensbp.org. You can still do it. We're able to send out some notifications, but they have to revolve around public safety. if we're going to send it out, or events that we've done in the past or the prior borough president's office did. So there's a very narrow window that allows us to send out mass communications at this moment. But queensbp.org, we are able to post it on social media. So if you went on our social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, I'm not on TikTok, I don't think. Maybe they have a TikTok page, I don't know. But we post all of these things, and we do this because we want to be transparent. There's nothing to hide, right? So as long as you seek the information, you'll find it. But your community board has a land use committee as well. They're meeting once a month and going through items as well, I'm sure. And we're on the clock. So whenever there's a project, a specific project, I have about, if my memory serves me correct, between 45 and 60 days to give a recommendation on the project. So we will have a hearing like tomorrow. You could tune in, we put it up online. We have a YouTube page as well, QBPO. You can always go back and even watch the hearings because they're saved online. So you can go to YouTube, QBPO, and you can actually watch the hearing. And if you cannot make the hearing because you're working, you're also allowed to submit testimony as well. So if you're opposed, you can send that in. We have a deadline because we by law, by the ULURP clock, have to submit whatever we're going to recommend to the Department of City Planning within a certain amount of days. So that's what I would say. In terms of how to use, there's no way to know. This is an area the City Planning Department and the council have butted heads. We would love to know when somebody files an application. Unfortunately, most of the times we may not find out until it's actually a certified project. But we have encouraged developers, if you're going to have a project, you need to get out into the communities, even beyond the ULURP scope. You don't have to wait till ULURP to speak to communities. So that is something we're striving on, but each developer is different. So thank you for that question. Brittany? Brent?
Due to the fact that the city charter will be changed soon, why won't the street cafe review be included for community input, including any charter change, so community boards can help review and serve the community with addressing quality of life issues? Commissioner Garcia, do you want to speak about the street cafe change?
Sure. So the Department of City Planning and DOT are currently in the process, citywide, meeting with every single community board. And what City Planning is asking to do, and again, I work for DOT, is they're looking to do a text amendment change. And what this would allow is for sidewalk cafes to remain currently on the books. There is, and Jason might be able to help me out because he's done, 4 of several presentations. Basically, when the pandemic hit and the executive order happened to allow for outdoor dining, we just opened up that program to any restaurant or bar that serves food. They could have a sidewalk cafe and they could have roadway seating. When the executive order sunsets, and obviously we've seen a lot of benefits from the open restaurants program, a lot of people like it. Of course, there are issues, and we hear, about, trash removal and what have you, but, at the time, we were able to help a very important industry that employed a lot of New Yorkers. And people do tend to like it. So what we're asking, what DCP is asking, is to remove text that limits sidewalk cafes to very, very specific areas in the city. So for instance, Roosevelt Avenue, because there is an elevated structure, city planning, I don't even know, like decades ago, created rules where they didn't think that outdoor dining underneath an elevated structure was palatable or feasible or even reasonable, wouldn't generate foot traffic. we all know what Roosevelt Avenue is today. It's one of the best destinations in Queens to like go and eat. It's world renowned. So with this text amendment, it would allow those restaurants to have their sidewalk cafes. That program, the sidewalk cafes, would actually be moved under DOT's jurisdiction. So as we work through the process with our partners at DCP, and we go to every community board in the city, it's not just in Queens, and ask for the board's support of this change. As we work on the details of the program that will fall under the purview of the Department of Transportation, everything my agency does, we want to work with the community boards. Right now, when we present projects, they're in an advisory capacity, but we take that feedback very, very seriously, which is why, for instance, for Community Board 3, all throughout 2020 and 2021, my team was doing Zoom meetings about 34th Avenue. John, my planners, we were requesting meetings of Marie and Florence. We want to make sure that we make good projects great, and we absolutely want to include the community board in that process.
Thank you.
This is a suggestion, not so much of a question. The traffic lights on Hoyt, foot of the RFK Bridge, exit from the Grand Central, the lights should be staggered. Traffic on the right first, then traffic on the left.
All right, so we'll give that Jason a take that recommendation.
We know the location. We call it the shuffle.
What do you call it? The shovel?
We call it the shuffle.
Oh, the shuffle. Okay. Okay.
Thank you. What could be done about the lack of parking for Queensbridge residents, NYCHA outsourced to, I believe I'm pronouncing this right, Laz, who is not closely monitoring availability. The upkeep is also poor and not safe. Can the contract be revisited and include resident input?
I think that's for you, Nicole. Oh, sorry. Oh, for NYCHA.
So I just be glad. So the contract years ago, NYCHA outsourced parking. Okay, thank you. So years ago, NYCHA outsources parking to a private management corporation. It's currently under Laz. I do hear, no matter where I am, whether I'm in Queens or Staten Island or the Bronx, complaints about this particular company. And yes, if we do bring on a new company and it should have significant resident engagement, starting from the CCOP to the RAB to down to individual tenant leaders. You are paying for parking. And oftentimes people say, I pay now, and I felt like I got more, when I wasn't paying, or at least as much. So this is something that's going to come up soon, and something, I know that we'll speak to Ms. Conn-Morris, Ms. Wilkins, and Ms. Koger about, for this area, and Ms. Simpson, because it was brought up for right now, there is a contract, but when it does run out, it will be something we'll engage folks on. I don't have it right in front of me, but I'll let your office know.
Okay, so our next question is for sanitation. Why can't you pick up flood damaged goods from businesses, and why do we have to pay for it?
So typically, we don't do anything with businesses. If there's one particular business that has extraordinary circumstances, we'd be happy to visit it and make some sort of determination if there can be an exception. Sometimes there are apartments upstairs from businesses on some of the strips, and they do afford some of their residents to store their stuff in the basements. But as a general rule, the short answer is we don't do anything with businesses. We leave that to the private carters. It should be some sort of an agreement that they have with their private carters. But if there is a specific location and one of your community boards have complaints in that capacity, please reach out to my office or to our community affairs, and we will be happy to go out and pay them a personal visit and make an assessment on where we stand with that. So the short answer is, it's possible, but not likely.
So it's not a law that precludes you from doing it?
Excuse me, there are laws that preclude us from touching that stuff. However, due to the storm, we have sort of made some exceptions. A lot of people have asked me, hey, how do I get rid of a water heater? Well, if you're getting rid of a water heater during a storm, it means it was destroyed, contaminated. So we really judge everything based on it's contaminated and it's not recyclable. And we do remove that stuff. So a business is typically not something that we would service, but like I said, we'd be more than happy to go and pay them a visit. So it's not out of the question.
Okay, and maybe that's an item we can, Frank, we should look into that. Okay.
Thank you. This is my last question that I have in front of me. The U.S. Department of Transportation Secretary Buttigieg and Queens CB1 have a shared goal: decking over highways that divide communities. CB1 has prioritized decking over the Grand Central Parkway for decades. Who is working on this locally?
So the good news is on Friday, I have a budget consultation meeting with the 14 families, as my team refers to our 14 community board leaders. And this is something that we can discuss if it's a priority. I'm not familiar with the request to deck over the Grand Central Parkway. If we were in Brooklyn, I know there was some talk about decking over parts of the BQE. And then also we received requests, and it's not under city DOT's jurisdiction, but in parts of Flushing, I know some of my counterparts at LIRR were approached to see if they could deck over the LIRR to create more parking, you know, in Murray Hill and in the Flushing area. So this request has not come to my attention, but again, I'm meeting with Florence, who will be at the meeting on Friday, and I'll ask her about it. But this was not raised as a priority, so I apologize if that wasn't relayed to City DOT, but I can certainly inquire.
Yeah, it's the first I'm hearing about it. So.
Thank you so much. So that concludes our question and answer. I'm going to give it back to the borough president for final thoughts.
Okay. Well, did you get your answers, your questions answered? No? You want, go ahead. We got like 5 minutes.
The staggering of the lights.
Staggering of the lights.
The lights are on the Triborough, the exit on the Grand Central, and the entrance to the Triborough. When we come off the Grand Central, we now have to go, I go straight, but there's people that's coming off that want to go onto the RFK, and they got to go. So we're crisscrossing at the same time.
Yeah, that's why we
it's real.
Shuffle, so go ahead, Jason.
It's what?
They call it the shuffle, she said. But Jason, come up and answer her
So
question.
are they going to change that? Because it's so dangerous.
That's okay.
We actually did change it, and then go ahead.
How you doing, Carol? Jason, if you don't remember me. But
Carol will do that to you.
Yeah.
Better answer that question.
So I'm just going to answer the question, and then I'm definitely going to call you on your cell. Just remember to call me back, because I've called you a couple times over the last couple months. Just saying. But good to see you again. So the commissioner is right. We actually have changed signal timing on that approach, 31st Street at RFK Bridge. given the fact that we're seeing traffic levels change again with folks returning back to work, we can restudy it again. A lot of times when traffic patterns change, we need to have our signal units taking a look at that to make sure that the flow is with the signal timing. And so what we'll do is we'll open up a request. I'll call you up. We'll talk a little bit about it because it seems like you're talking both on the western portion. I thought you were talking on the eastern approach, but we can take a look at both of them. And if you want to meet out there, we can do that too. But
how soon can we get it done?
Well, it'll probably take typically it takes about 3 months for a study, right? But Commissioner Garcia has worked her magic over the last couple months to expedite those studies. So we'll use the strength of the commissioner to expedite those studies and try to get a response back before 3 months, because typically what the response will investigate takes time, and then it'll take time to make those changes, but we'll work to avoid all that in an effort to get your response.
Crisscross, crisscross, crisscross. Yeah, I'm going to be there tomorrow too, so.
All righty. So Jason is going to meet with you, and we could have, Frank, we could have staff there too. We could have Joe there. So I want to let's give a round of applause for the agencies tonight. To my amazing staff, can y'all come up? I want y'all to get to see some of my staff. My staff can come up.
BP,
Borough Hall staff.
We have one more question.
Okay, no problem.
Last question.
Thank you. I want to circle back real quickly to the process about the renewal of roadway dining and sidewalk cafes. I understand that the DOT is working with the CBs, but there's really very little interaction with the CBs and the business community. A local CB had a meeting last night. There was absolutely zero outreach to the business community regarding that meeting. None of us were invited, and to be quite frank, there's a lot of anger out there at the results coming out of that meeting. What is the DOT and perhaps even the Borough President's Office going to do to get more interaction with the business community as we go through this process? Because it's a lifeline for many of us.
So, I mean, I could speak for myself. We had a borough board meeting, I think, where they presented already. Tomorrow we have another hearing, and I really urge, and I work very closely with the business community. So if you're a part of the Queens Chamber or the bids, we work very closely with them. Matter of fact, it's one of the reasons JetBlue is remaining in Queens. So if I don't know if you want to hold a separate session, we can do that. And we could try to get the word out to as many people. So if you want to commit, I'll add to Nicole in my office's workload. But if you feel that you have not gotten enough responsiveness, we can plan something separate. We don't have to wait for a hearing or the borough board so that questions could be answered. And like I said, we're in the midst of planning. Do we have a date on that yet? The virtual town hall. We're planning a virtual business town hall now. So that information. Early November. So, well, let's see if we can, I mean, even if, my schedule is crazy, so, but even if you need to proceed without me to get these things moving faster, it's fine. So I would urge you to do that, and we could do that collectively together on this issue. So have Sharon work on that, and if I can be there, I'll be there, but I don't want to hold up the process so that they can get their questions answered. Does that work? You're going to help plan it and get the word out? Because now you're an ambassador. All righty. So we got a commitment. You want to go into anything else, or you good? All righty. All righty. With that being said, I just want to have my staff come up and introduce themselves. This is some of my team. And I also want to thank QPTV, Queens Public Access Television, for live streaming this meeting as well. So thank you so much. Oh, and Joe is here. All right, I didn't even see you. Okay. All right, so y'all all introduce yourselves.
Hi, folks. I think this was, we all could say this was a fantastic town hall, and we thank our borough president, Donovan Richards, for this. I give him a big hand. He has the right guy at the right time put 2 years' worth of work into 10 months. Okay.
All right,
Joe Nasarino, Transportation.
Joe's been around long. Just give your title.
Hello, I'll be quick. My name is Amanda Menachini, and I am the Borough President's Budget Director. If you have any questions, I'll be here at the end if you have any questions on any of his allocations.
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Kat Thompson, Clergy Liaison, Constituent Services, and Internship Coordinator.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Maricela Cano, and I am the Director of Community Board. So any community board concerns, questions, stop by. I'll be here. I'll give you my card. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Andres Vargas. I am the Assistant to the Borough President.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? My name is Brittany Scott. I'm the Director of Constituent Services over at the Borough President's Office. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you.
Mastermind behind tonight.
Hi, my name is Omar Trabal, and I'm the Support Engineer for IT and Audio Video.
Good evening, everyone. Michael Mallon, Director of Intergovernmental Affairs for the Queensborough President.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Brianna Mulligan, Director of Communications for the Queensborough President.
Hi, everyone. Chris Barca. I work with Bree at the communications team at Borough Hall.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Khalil Bragg. I'm an advisor on community engagement. I deal with sports outreach as well as cure violence throughout the borough.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Brent Weitzberg. I have the pleasure of serving as the Deputy Chief of Staff to Borough President Richards. My portfolio consists of COVID response and a bunch of other things. Good being here.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Frank Joseph. I'm the Chief of Staff and Senior Advisor to the Borough President, and I want to give a round of applause to our team one more time for putting this together.
Alrighty, I wanted to get you to see who serves you and who's better be responsive to you. But thank you all for coming out, and like I said, we're going to be rolling these out regionally, and this will not be the last time. During my time in the council, I was consistent in doing these. And it's a way to make sure that we're keeping our fingers on the pulse of what's happening in communities and also having agencies responsive. So thank you all for coming out. We look forward to continuing to serve you. Oh, and I thank QPTV. Yes, I did thank them. Thank you so much once again for live streaming it. You can watch us on cable. All right. Thank you so much. God bless you all.